So if you know of a Latino who voted for Trump, I urge you to call this number.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into a topic that is sparking heated debates online. A guy on social media recently went viral after making a controversial statement. He said, and I quote, "If you know any Latino who voted for Trump, you should report an undocumented person to ICE." Yes, ICE, the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement. He even provided the hotline number and mentioned you could report immigration violation anonymously online. Let's unpack this and see how people are reacting to it.
Latinos for Trump, it is time to embrace the consequences of your actions. I've always been a firm believer of fighting fire with fire. If somebody goes low, I'll go lower. Now, with that being said, I know for a fact that most Latinos for Trump have undocumented family members, whether that be their parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, etc. So if you know of a Latino who voted for Trump, I urge you to call this number and report said family members. It's time that these Latinos for Trump get a taste of their own medicine and a taste of poetic justice. Now, I know what you may be thinking, Angel, this is extreme, and I agree, but extreme problems call for extreme solutions. And unfortunately, many innocent people are going to be affected by this, but you can't be that innocent if you raised a Latino for Trump. And before all of the Latinos for Trump come at me all angry, this is what you wanted. This is what you voted for. You should be happy. Let me see that smile. But there you have it, guys. Once again, there is that number. You know what to do. It's time that these Latinos for Trump learn the hard way. But anyways, let me know what you guys think.
Whilst I have no problem with this level of pettiness, there are two considerations. One, how would mass deportation be executed? And two, how would they identify all of these people? There's a huge amount of subjectivity in that the police and the National Guard, who will be used to execute this through door-to-door raids and workplace raids, don't actually know who all of these undocumented immigrants are. So there's a huge amount of racism and racial discrimination that would take place in order for them to go through that identification process. This isn't just going to impact Latinos, it's going to impact people who are black. That's where I come in. It's going to impact people who are Asian. It's not just going to be isolated to one demographic of people. So being so quick to say that this should happen because the Latinos voted for Trump, this is going to impact people who didn't and people who are not just Latino.
Kinda curious that a guy whose entire channel and identity is dedicated to convincing people how horrible America is considers deporting people from that country to his championed country a punishment. So this guy is encouraging his followers to racially target people for harassment and voter intimidation, which is not only illegal, but shows you that him and the rest are the very thing they claim they're fighting against. And all this euphemistic talk of consequences, where you're treating your willful act to do harm on someone like it's some cosmic inevitability, is the height of narcissism, and is the same rationale embraced by history's worst perpetrators. And that's this guy in a nutshell, narcissism and cope. And you can add his video alongside the rest of the escalating rhetoric where women who didn't vote correctly deserve to be essayed, and dark-skinned people who didn't vote correctly deserve to be suspended from tree branches.
Listen, your mouth says you're smiling and happy, but your eyes tell a whole different story. I'm going to assume you cried for about an hour and a half before making this video. That's cool, man. If that's how you want to take bad news, whatever. Just shrug it off next time. It's a little easier. But what you're telling people to do is called snitching. So maybe your friends in your age group like that video, applaud, yeah, woohoo, you're doing a great job. Don't let the wrong motherfucker see that shit.
Aquí pensando y analizando este video de este joven que está diciendo en su propio video que latinos que votaron por Trump ya es hora de que pague sus consecuencias. Y también dice que si usted votó por Kamala y algún de sus familiares votó por Trump, que lo deporte usted mismo. No importa si es su abuela, su mamá, su papá, su tío. No importa quién carajo sea, que lo deportes, que llamas a ese número y lo deportes. Después dicen que Donald Trump es el más malo, Donald Trump es racista, Donald Trump no quiere a nadie, Donald Trump aquello, que si Trump lo otro. Hasta donde yo tengo entendido, ¿verdad? Obama fue el que más personas deportó. ¿Verdad? Según dicen las estadísticas aquí. Trump sí también lo hizo, pero Obama fue el que más deportó. Entonces él se atreve, pues como Kamala Harris no ganó, pues él te está diciendo a ti que llamas ese número y los deportes, pero lo dice con una cara de lechuga, con una... O sea, ¿qué ustedes piensan de eso? Eso está bien. ¿Quién lo está haciendo mal? Dicen que el partido de Donald Trump son fascistas. Pero mira quién es. Miren a este. Mira ese niño, mira este joven. Incitándolos a ustedes a que llamen a... ¿Ustedes saben qué? Para que deporten a su propia familia. Ah, esto es contenido. A eso ustedes le llaman contenido. Yo creo que la persona más racista entre otros latinos es el mismo latino, como él. Él es bien racista. Porque su mamá es mexicana, su papá es mexicano. No venga a decirme, nació en Estados Unidos. ¿Y tu mamá y tu papá dónde están? Son mexicanos, ¿tú los deportarías? Porque ellos no deben estar aquí en Estados Unidos. A eso es a lo que yo me refiero. Les gustan hablar, pero cuando lo señalan, no les gusta. ¿Qué ustedes piensan de ese video? Pues denle clic al videito que está por aquí. Denle clic al nombre que se llama Ángel no sé qué carajo. Denle para que vean el video y digan qué ustedes piensan.
You know, people are trying to figure out why Kamala lost to Donald Trump. This right here is precisely why. I mean, he is encouraging people to report their family members to ICE. You know, threats of deportation in retaliation of them exercising their right to vote. Make it make sense. I mean, seriously. Kamala ran on a campaign of pettiness, name-calling, lies. And this dude here is trying to encourage people to retaliate against people for voting for Donald Trump. It's wrong. Morally, ethically. And as a family member, oh my God, that is horrendous.
Yeah, no, you went low. Yeah, you went very low. You went so low that you basically you sound like someone who votes red, but you vote blue. And that is like 2/3 of the problem right there. All right, so, hi, longer video, Latino here, and Latino Cuban on top of that, which we'll get to learn. All right, we need to talk, y'all, because this ain't the vibe. This is not. We don't combat racism and xenophobia by being racist and xenophobic. And about the one pass that I can give here is for the black community, because y'all are mad. Y'all have every reason to be mad. Numbers don't lie. Y'all understood the assignment and you're tired that you're the only ones that understand the assignment. I get it. It doesn't excuse literally like calling ICE on people, but at least I know where you're coming from. I know where the anger is at. But let me dissect this real quick. First of all, like just right from the gate, ICE is not a surgical procedure. ICE isn't going to just get rid of the one Latino for Trump and catapult them into the sun. They're not. When you call ICE on any individual, you're dooming their family, their children's family, their parents' family. This is a nuke that you are throwing to a family, of which, despite the fact that a chunk of us unfortunately voted red, and it's not 60% of us that voted red, let me stress that, the number is actually 46, which, don't get me wrong, I hate it. That is way too much for red in general, but it wasn't the majority of us. The majority of us went blue, which can be said the same thing for, at least based on this, the Asian community and everyone, and not necessarily everyone they slump into other. But again, when you see a Latino person, you associate us the deportation when we're not being associated to agriculture or janitorial services. So we're the ones who is getting highlighted because you have a means to attack us. Don't. If there's a conversation to be had, you need someone to blame, and I get that, right? You need someone to blame. Cool. I'll give you a few targets, right? Right from the gate, the obvious target, the main individuals that want the conversation to divert because they don't want to do the necessary work. The work that us Latinos have been doing with our families for years to be even able to get the numbers that we have. And there's a reason why it's so tough and there's so much work in the Latino community that we have to do. But these folks, the one to make up the majority of the vote at like, I think, what is it, like 70 something % of total votes counted are going to be of this community. Y'all hit 57% red, and that is a very tiny shift from the year before. How tiny? That tiny. So up above, you see it broken down by legally accepted gender marker, right? Or just men and women. And as far as it's concerned, for most folks shifted a little bit blue. Very, very little. We're talking about like at least men going orange was less than 2% than the year before, with 1% extra that went blue. So at least a couple of y'all figured it out, but the rest of y'all are very like hardline into just like racism, bigotry, and xenophobia, which kind of makes this like diversion a little bit easier to like swallow, I suppose. This isn't kind of taking into consideration total votes, because we're considering total votes, if I remember right. On red, it was like 2 million less total votes from last year, and on blue, it was closer to like 15, 16, something crazy like that. That is a whole conversation of its own, because it's either A, votes that weren't counted, which that is up in the air. There's way too much conspiracy around it, so I don't want to put all of my eggs in one basket with it, or just folks did not vote. They just didn't. There's a reason for it. One of the reasons is obvious, but since we're highlighting Latinos, I'll highlight Latinos. You will notice that for the most part, like Latinas, the women, they in our community, 8% of them got a little confused, but majority, the greater majority, the much greater majority, understood the assignment. The biggest shift was men in.
I am, in fact, petty. I am, in fact, upset about the results of this election. I am about accountability. I did not see this one coming.
I need for y'all to go back to that video that I just stitched and watch the whole video, because he is getting petty. And I know why you're thinking, why you stitched this, why you commenting on this. I am a black Latino, and I am sincerely tired of these bullshit ass blacks for Trump, Latinos for Trump, gays for Trump, whatever you have for Trump. But I'm going to specifically talk to the Latinos, especially DACA for Trump. What the fuck were they thinking? How in the hell are you going to vote against your best interests when you know good and damn well he don't want you here? He don't want you in the fucking U.S. You basically voted for somebody who is going to deport you no matter what kind of status you have in the U.S., whether documented or undocumented. Y'all are stupid. He sold you lies and you bought them hook, line, and sinker. But you are going to reap what you sow, and you have nobody to blame but for yourselves. And let me just tell you right here, this is the type of petty that I'm living for, because y'all fucking deserve it. And you can cry and bitch and complain and get angry about it however you want to, but y'all did this to yourselves. It's going to happen sooner or later. That is definitely what you wanted, and that is definitely what you're going to get. And let me just say that when you voted for that fool, you put a lot of other innocent people at risk. What the fuck were you thinking? I also have smoke for the black people and gay people who voted for Trump, but that's going to be on another video. I just have smoke for the Latinos for Trump. Y'all stupid.
You are fucking amazing. I did not expect this pettiness. This is hilarious. But yeah, I agree with you. Anybody, Latinos for Trumps that you got, call that number ASAP. fucking report them to immigration. Fuck that. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Fuck that.
Alright, let's talk about the situation for a minute because it's not just about one comment, it's about the layers of complexity beneath it. The statement that Latino Trump supporters should be reported to ICE has sparked outrage, laughter, and deep philosophical debates online, and I get why it's so polarizing. On the surface, it seems like a perfect example of what people call karmic justice. You vote for policy that targets undocumented immigrants, and now someone is saying, hey, let's use those policy against you. But when you dig deeper, the statement opens a much bigger conversation about morality, politics, and community, and the consequences of the weaponized government institutions. So let's break this down. First, let's address the elephant in the room. Why would someone even say this? Well, the US has a long and complicated history with immigration, and Trump administration policy made immigration a flashpoint issue. From the broader war to family separations, these policies disproportionately affected Latino communities, both documented and undocumented. And yet, Trump had a surprising amount of support among Latino voters, especially in places like Florida and Texas. Now, this guy's statement essentially calls out what some people see as hypocrisy. Latinos who voted for Trump were in a way endorsing policy that could harm their own communities. But the question is, does that make it okay to retaliate by reporting them to ICE? That is where things get messy. Let's start with the perspective of those who agree with the statement. For them, this is a form of poetic justice. They see it as a way to hold people accountable for their actions. If you supported a politician whose policy targets undocumented immigrants, then why should you be protected from those same policies? It's the idea that you can't have your cake and eat it too. For example, one person online said, if you dance with the devil, don't surprise when you get burned. This sentiment reflects a belief that actions have consequences, and honestly, it's hard to argue with the logic. If you support policy that harm your own community, it's fair for people to question your motives and even your integrity. But here's the thing, does holding someone accountable mean stopping to the same level? That is the ethnical dilemma. Sure, it might feel satisfying in moments to say, let's report them to ICE, but is that the kind of society we want to create? One where we use government agencies as weapons against each other based on political disagreements. Let's flip the coin and look at the opposing perspective. A lot of people are saying, wait a minute, this is a crossing line, and I agree. Reporting someone to ICE, especially anonymously, isn't just a political statement, it's a life-altering action. You are talking about the possibility of deportation, separation from family, and in some cases, sending someone back to a dangerous situation. That is not something to take lightly. One person online wrote, we don't fight oppression by becoming oppressor. This isn't the way, and I think that is an important point. If we start using tools of oppression to settle political scores, we know better than the system we are trying to dismantle. Plus, targeting someone based on their political beliefs sets a dangerous precedent. Today is about Trump supporters, but what happens tomorrow? Do we start reporting anyone we disagree with? That is a slippery slope. What makes the situation even more heartbreaking is the division it highlights with communities. The Latino communities in the US isn't a monolith. People have different experiences, priorities, and public belief. And some might support Trump for economic reasons, others for religious or cultural values. But when comments like this go viral, it deepens the divides with communities that should ideally support each other. Instead of focusing on shared struggles like fighting against systemic discrimination and improving opportunities, this divide creates an us versus them mentality, and that is benefit no one except those in power who strive on keeping us divided. This is why it's so important to approach this discussion with empathy, even when we disagree. Another thing to consider is how social media plays into all of this. Statements like this are designed to go viral because they are provocative. They spark immediate emotional reactions, whether it's anger, laughter, or outrage. But in the process, they reduce complex issues to sound bites. The truth is, immigration policy, political loyalty, and community dynamics are incredibly nuanced. But when you are scrolling through Twitter or TikTok, there is no room for nuisance. It's all about who can come up with the most shocking take. And there is dangerous because it encourages us to react instead of reflect. So where does that leave us? Personally, I think this is a moment to reflect on what kind of society we want to build. Do we want to perpetuate circles of division and retaliation, or do we want to find ways to bridge our difference and support each other, even when we disagree? I am not saying we should excuse harmful political choices. Accountability is important, but there is a difference between accountability and vengeance. Reporting someone to ICE because of their political beliefs feels like justice and more like a revenge. And revenge rarely leads to anything good. We have to ask ourselves, are we fighting for a world where everyone has dignity and opportunity, or are we trying to win at any cost? Because if it's the latter, we are all going to lose in the long run. At the end of the day, this comment has sparked an important conversation about morality, politics, and community. It's a reminder that our words and actions have real consequences, and not just online, but in the real world. So what do you think? Is reporting someone to ICE for supporting Trump justified, or is it crossing a line? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep the conversation respectful, because at the end of the day, we are all in this together. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth conversation like this one. Until next time, take care.